I'm Justin Arnberg and welcome back to another video here on Justin Sports. If you like the content that you see, be sure to give it a like and hit the subscribe button and be sure to comment, because if you leave a comment and tell me what you guys want to see, I bet you I'm going to do it because I'm pretty interested in what you guys want to see. But if you also don't like or you don't follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and X, be sure to do so, because I guarantee you if you like the content that you see here, you're going to like the content that you see there. But without further ado, let's get into today's video, because that's what you clicked on the link for, right? Anyway, Brock Boeser, let's talk about him. It is the summer of Brock. It's the summer of Brock Boeser, the pending free agent from the Vancouver Canucks, who seemingly don't want him anymore. Yes, unfortunately, they don't want a 40 goal scorer at his peak and a 25 goal scorer at his low. Listen, his services are going to be in demand this year, and listen, if there's one thing we can say, he's the third best winger on the market behind Mitch Marner and Nikolai Ehlers, and he's going to demand a big market. He could demand more than $8 million a season, and if a team's willing to overpay him, probably $9.5 million this season, just based on the fact of saying I scored 40 goals in the NHL. If it's the Minnesota Wild, the wild favorite, pun intended, wild favorite to land him, or the Vegas Golden Knights or Colorado Avalanche, I would not be shocked to see him on a contending team, simply because they are looking to add goal scoring and they're looking to get into the playoffs and have goal scoring when they get into these deep playoff runs. Brock Boeser is a terrific player, and he's going to end up helping someone try and win a Stanley Cup. That is for sure. But without further ado, let's get into the rest of this video, because you want to know what the top 10 list is going to look like. Where the top 10 spots I think Brock Boeser is going to land this summer. And yes, some of these spots you probably won't agree with, and that's okay, because listen, everyone's allowed to have their opinions, and I'm allowed to have my opinions. But if you don't agree with it, let me know in the comments why that you don't agree with it. And say, listen, if you don't agree with it, give me a reason as to why, and maybe a team that he might go to instead, because I'm curious to know. I'm very, very curious to know where you guys think Brock Boeser might end up this summer. Without further ado, though, let's get into number 10, and it is the Vegas Golden Knights. Yes, they need a player like Brock Boeser. In the playoffs this season, they obviously went down to the Edmonton Oilers, as everyone knows. That's Captain Obvious. But what they didn't have was secondary scoring behind Mark Stone, Jack Eichel, William Karlsson, and Thomas Hertl. Yes, they have a lot of depth players in Barbashev, Howden, Holtz, Roy. The list goes on and on. Colster. Listen, they have some good goal scorers, and they have some good, depth scoring, I want to say. But at the end of the day, they just seem to miss like another star scorer, goal scorer on their team. Someone that, gives a threat to the opponent every single time they step on the ice. And that is Brock Boeser. If you can say a lot of things about Brock Boeser, but you can't say his shot is terrible. It is pretty lethal. It scored 40 times. Like I said, 40 tucks is pretty good in the NHL. But listen, I think that the Vegas Golden Knights could be kicking tires on Brock Boeser this summer. And yeah, I know that they don't have a lot of cap space, but they do have $9.6 million, and I could see them offering Brock Boeser a decent contract, and maybe you move off a contract that you already have if you're the Vegas Golden Knights. But moving on to number 9, we have the Colorado Avalanche, okay? Listen, this team you're going to say is already loaded, like they don't need scoring. Well, they do, because they traded Mikko Rantanen, who at the time, maybe it didn't look like the worst trade because Martin Necas was looking great, and Martin Necas has looked good. But they need some more secondary scoring to play alongside either Nathan MacKinnon or Charlie Coyle, who looks to be their second-line center going forward. Listen, Valerie Nichushkin could slide up to that first line. Gabe Landeskog could slide down into the third line and play with Ross Colton. That would even out the lines, or even put Brock Boeser on the third line. Either way, Brock Boeser would be a perfect fit, and it's the kind of situation that you can see Brock Boeser playing in, to be honest. It kind of fits his pace, it kind of fits his game, and I can see him actually being a big add to the Colorado Avalanche in their cup chase once again. But moving on to number 8, listen, these next two teams, I'm gonna say you're gonna be shocked that they're this low on the list. I know that you are gonna say this, but coming in at number 8, it's the Utah Mammoth, and the reason being for the Utah Mammoth coming in at number 8 is just because I think that they're gonna target Mitch Marner and Nikolai Ehlers a lot more aggressively than going after Brock Boeser. And that's not to say that Brock Boeser is bad. Like I said, off the top, Brock Boeser is a really good player that's going to help a lot of teams chase a Stanley Cup and can do only good things for them. But at the end of the day, I think the Utah Mammoth have bigger things that they want to try and get this summer, and that being Mitch Marner. As you can see, they have Clayton Keller, Logan Cooley, Dylan Gunther, Nick Schmaltz, and Barrett Hayden, and then Josh Doan. And listen, they have a really good core here that they're building out from, and they have a lot of talent here. And they still have Tidge McGinley. They still have a lot of picks to come. But listen, they need some secondary scoring really badly. Like that was the one thing that they did not have this year. Was Clayton Keller was going, Logan Cooley was going, and Dylan Gunther was going. But outside of that, maybe Nick Schmaltz some nights was going. But outside of that, it wasn't really like a lot of secondary scoring for this team. And when they didn't have those 4 guys going, it's pretty much seemed like it wasn't going to be a good night for them. So I think Brock Boeser could very easily come in, like I said, give you an extra 25 goals a year at the bare minimum. And what's that? An extra 3 to 4 wins? Maybe that gets you into the playoffs. That's an extra 8 points right there without adding anyone else to Brock Boeser. Just thinking about Brock Boeser and what he brings. I don't think the Utah Mammoth are going to prioritize Brock Boeser coming to Utah. But listen, I think the fit would be good. The only reason I don't have them higher on this list is, like I said, I think that they're going to target Mitch Marner, and I think they're going to target Nikolai Ehlers to come to Utah. Now, that could very easily be said for this next team as well, because it's the exact same reasoning, basically, as to why I have them this low, and that being the Chicago Blackhawks coming in at number 7. Yes, the Chicago Blackhawks, who you would think might be a little bit higher because, listen, they're probably the most desperate team this summer. I have them coming in at number 7 simply because, like the other team, I think that they're going to target Mitch Marner and Nikolai Ehlers, and if they strike it on those two, maybe they get Brock Boeser, but at the same time, other teams are going to be talking to Brock Boeser, and they might not have enough time to react and try and offer a contract and overpay him, really. He might have already signed, is what the point is. But listen, when you only have Teuvo Teravainen and Tyler Bertuzzi, who they brought in last year, and everyone thought it was going to be a really good year for surrounding Connor Bedard, it just simply did not work out. They need some actual stardom, and Brock Boeser could be the start of that. Yes, they have a 1-2 center punch in Connor Bedard and Frank Nazar. Frank Nazar looked pretty good in his first year, I'm not going to lie. And then we can see Brock Boeser being added onto that right wing and really, giving some secondary score, or giving primary scoring, I should say, to the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, moving into the top 6 here, you're not going to like the 6th overall, or 6th team that I could see him going into, and that would be the Florida Panthers. Okay, the Florida Panthers, they have let's just call it what it is. They have $19 million in cap space right now. The Florida Panthers make sense if 2 things happen. If Sam Bennett leaves and Brad Marchand leaves, because if those 2 leave, I can see the Florida Panthers targeting Brock Boeser to come to the Sunrise State and play alongside the guys like Barkov, Verhaeghe, Reinhart, Matthew Tkachuk, and we have to assume Lindell's going to be going to the 3rd line. But listen, for me, Brock Boeser would fit into the Florida Panthers system. A lot of players would fit into the Florida Panthers system, be real. But Brock Boeser I think he would find a new level to his game, just like everyone else that's gone there, like the Sam Reinharts of the world, the Carter Verhaeghes of the world, even Sam Bennett. They all found different levels to their game when they went to Florida, and I think that he would fit tremendously well in with this team, and I think that they could really use a guy like Brock Boeser on their lineup, even though they might win the Stanley Cup for the 2nd time in as many years. Listen, like I said, you might not agree with the pick, but I do see them being a likely landing spot for Brock Boeser. Moving on to number 5, though, I have to put them in this list. I mean, you just have to have them here, right? The Detroit Red Wings, they need the scoring. They need someone, right? Like the pressure's on Stevie Y after Dylan Larkin went to the media basically on exit interview day and said, listen, we wish that we would have had some deadline pieces brought in. And listen, that's on Stevie Y for not getting it done. And Brock Boeser was a piece of the deadline that could have been had for a first round pick. Just saying. But it might be good because you get him for free in free agency if you do end up getting him. Like I said here, though, they desperately need secondary scoring as well. Like, they don't have anyone outside of the top line really, except for Tarasenko, who's on the downside of 30, turning 34 this upcoming year, and he's not looking like he's going to get any better, and he's not looking like he's really holding on to much. He looks like he's degressing in value, degressing in his play every single year. So I really think Brock Boeser would be a good fit on this team. And I can see him actually adding a really, really good second winger, or becoming a good second winger right behind Lucas Raymond, who would be their number one winger, obviously. But moving into the top four of this list, we have none other than the Boston Bruins. And yes, I know you're not going to like that pick as well, because guess what? When you think about the Boston Bruins and you think about just like a jersey vibe, and I don't know if anyone else does this, but you think about guys that like just maybe go into a different jersey and whether or not that even fits. Brock Boeser in a Boston Bruins jersey just fits. It just does. Like, it simply just fits. And same with the Florida Panthers. It's unfortunate, but it does. Listen, the Boston Bruins did the right thing at the trade deadline. They sold and they tanked. And when I mean they tanked, they tried to tank as hard as they possibly could. And they ended up getting the 7th overall pick, which is pretty decent. Now, Connor Geekie is obviously a good person to have, obviously RFA this summer. He had over 30 goals this season, obviously on a team that was not that, well at scoring. He stepped up and found the back of the net. Outside of David Pastrnak, though, they didn't really have scoring. I shouldn't say that, I guess, because Morgan Geekie, sorry, but outside of those two, like, it wasn't a lot of scoring, and they simply just could not find the back of the net. If David Pastrnak wasn't getting a hat trick a game, it felt like, or at least 3 points a game, and getting in on every single scoring opportunity, they just simply weren't scoring enough on a nightly basis. And Brock Boeser would help that greatly. And the one thing to know about the Boston Bruins is, yes, you extended Don Sweeney, which kind of means that in a direction, for me, you're going and you're not going to just go into a full rebuild. I feel like you're still going to compete and you're still going to try and win, especially with David Pastrnak in the prime of his career. You don't really want to waste that. And I said, like, they have decent center depth, so we'll see what they do there. But also, they have a decent decor already in Lindholm and McAvoy. And listen, Zadorov had a terrible year, but he could bounce back. And Swayman, another terrible year, but he could bounce back as well. We'll see what happens, though. But yeah, I can see the Boston Bruins being a real possibility for Brock Boeser this summer. Moving into the top three, listen, I have to put them at number 3 here simply because they need scoring. They need it badly. Yes, they could use centers more than wingers, but they still need scoring. Bobby Brink isn't getting it done for them. They aren't getting a lot, like, in terms of production that they hoped to when they traded for Owen Tippett and what they hoped that he would turn into. Yes, he has turned into a decent NHL player, but he hasn't turned into the star player that they once hoped that he would. And there's still time to grow for him. He's only 26. He's he's going into the second year of $6.2 million deal. But Brock Boeser would be a great addition, not only because he would add scoring, but he already knows Rick Tocchet. And that's the biggest connection here, is he knows Rick Tocchet, he knows the system, and he played well underneath Rick Tochet's system in Vancouver. Yes, that's where he scored the 40 goals. And yes, he had 25 this year, but that's still a decent number to score at in the NHL. 25 goals at the minimum, that's a decent clip to be scoring at. And that's goals that the Philadelphia Flyers just did not score last year. They just seem to not be like the Detroit Red Wings and like the Boston Bruins. They just simply did not seem to score when they needed to, and score in bunches and, have big games. It just simply did not happen last year for them. But moving on to number 2 on the list. Yes, we're already at number 2, trying to fly through these for you guys. We have the Los Angeles Kings. Yes, the Los Angeles Kings are up here for me. I don't think that they're getting Mitch Marner, to be completely honest. They have a lot of cap space, 21.7 million to be exact. And listen, this team, they need to move. They need to get something. They need to have another star added into this lineup. And listen, can you just imagine Brock Boeser being here instead of Lafreniere? Like, it would be so good. It would look so, so good with him on that line, with Quentin Byfield and Kevin Fiala on the other side. I can just picture it right now. And listen, I can picture him in a Kings uniform, and I can picture him having a productive season on that power play, on that team. And I can just see the fit being really well with the Los Angeles Kings for Brock Boeser. If you don't agree with it, though, let me know. Let me know. I mean, maybe not everyone's going to agree. That's totally fine. And then obviously the number one favorite to land Brock Boeser, and we probably don't even have to do a list because the Minnesota Wild seem to be already, they're packing the bags for Brock Boeser of making his way down to Minnesota right now to be a part of the team. It is the Minnesota Wild. They have $16.5 million in cap space this summer. And listen, it does not look like they don't need Brock Boeser, that's for sure. They could definitely use him, and they're going to be probably trading Marco Rossi this summer as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what they get in return for him and what they do there. But yeah, Brock Boeser is going to fit very well in this team if he goes there, and the hometown connection, obviously. I don't blame him for going to the Minnesota Wild. They're going to be so good for so many years. They have so many bright young prospects as well. And Matt Boldy is just turning into an absolute star right now in the NHL. And then you have Kirill Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson-Ek. They look like a good up-and-coming team, and they look like they can be very dangerous. And when they actually have cap space, because the buyouts are done, the Minnesota Wild are going to be a dangerous, dangerous team for the next upcoming season. And that is where I see Brock Boeser landing at the end of the day. It might be boring. It might not be the hottest take in the world. But listen, at the end of the day, sometimes it's just too obvious for some of these answers, right? Anyway, that's just about does it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope if you stayed around, you liked and you gave it a comment. And if so, please hit the subscribe button. And I'll see you next time on the channel. Have a good night.